Welcome to Foro Politico. My name is Marcos Palma. Thank you very much for joining us once again. So far, we know who is the presumptive Republican nominee, Mr. Donald Trump. And also, we know who is the presumptive Democratic nominee, Secretary Clinton. But before we talk about this, we're going to mention about the death of Muhammad Ali, the greatest, inside and outside the ring. He was a fighter for the weak, for the poor, and for the minorities. He fought for justice, peace, and equality. The world lost a great champion that defended his ideas no matter what. Rest in peace, Mr. Muhammad Ali. He was 74 years old. Now we're switching gears. Today is a historic day for this country. In a few hours, we will know for sure the official representative Democratic nominee for first time could be a woman. Since yesterday night, the Associated Press revealed that Secretary Clinton had 2,383 delegates to clinch this nomination. Then come out the question, what for to go out and vote today when we know this already? During this weekend, the candidates were working so hard to persuade their constituents. Mr. Bernie Sanders has been refused to give up the campaign, and he keeps going. Even he has threatened that whatever happened today in California, there will be a contested convention in Philadelphia. There are 6 states that they have primaries today. The biggest here in California with more than 400 delegates. Later, we will show you why did the people go out to vote. Now, talking about the Republican side. During the last show, we mentioned the comments by Mr. Trump about the federal judge that is handling this case regarding the Trump University. That's the judge, Mr. Gonzalo Curiel. He's an American descendant from Mexican immigrants. And because of that, Mr. Trump assured that there is a conflict of interest. We have to remember that Mr. Trump wants to rebuild a wall between Mexico and the United States. And he keeps repeating and told to his people to attack those reporters that ask about this issue. Secretary Clinton and many others have said that this is racism. It's in the textbooks accusing by ethnicity, gender, or religion. Mr. Trump is being refusing to retract from this comment about this federal judge, Gonzalo Curiel. He's an example of who we are. And once again, we told the talk, Mr. Trump, we are not criminals, we are not rapists, we are not drug dealers. Let me tell you this, when you talk about race, that involves every single one that has a blood from our descendants. We are more than 50 million in this country that is also our land. You pay taxes, we do the same. We respect the laws, and period. Don't forget that when your grandparents came to this country, we were already here. Before we introduce our political panel today, we are going to show you what happened in today's primary election in California. By the way, it's the last primary. Tell me why did you decide to come out and vote today?
I vote because I think it will affect the future. If I don't vote, then I don't have the right to really feel dissatisfied about what the winner will be or who will be the the one running office.
The reason I voted today because my vote is my voice, and I feel like I have the right to decide who I think will best represent me, especially as a young person. A lot of young people don't come out to vote because they either feel lazy or they think that their voice doesn't matter. But this is the best way we could express ourselves as just citizens, regular citizens. This is how we could best voice ourselves about the government and basically who runs us and what affects us in the future.
¿Fue difícil votar? ¿Cuánto tiempo le tomó para votar?
No fue tan difícil. Nomás me registré nuevamente y hay un personal muy especial que nos ayuda para ubicarnos y me estuve como unos 15 minutos.
Una de las contiendas difíciles aquí en el estado de California es para el Senado Federal, donde está la señora Loretta Sánchez y Kamala Harris. ¿Usted escogió algún candidato para el Senado Federal?
Sí, Bueno, no sé si es necesario decirlo, pero la
Sí,
verdad
pues si quiere decirlo, lo puede decir, pero más que todo,
Loreta Sánchez ha sido-
¿por qué Loreta Sánchez?
Bueno, porque ella siempre ha estado con nosotros en cuanto en darnos las explicaciones necesarias que el pueblo latino necesita.
¿Cree que es importante votar por latinos? ¿Cree que todo eso ayuda a la comunidad latina?
Muchísimo, porque eso nos hace también a nosotros ser un poquito más grandes en cuanto para la voz y voto que necesitamos en los Estados Unidos, porque el pueblo latino necesita mucho apoyo en cuanto para vivir en los Estados Unidos.
We went outside to do those interviews in June the 7th, and now I want to welcome to guest today, Mr. Steven Figueroa. He's immigrants advocate, Mr. Figueroa. Thank you very much. And also we have Blanca Arellano. Mrs. Arellano, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for sharing your wisdom about politics and everything that come up with this presidential election. Before that we talk about the presidential election, I would like to ask you first about the death of Mr. Muhammad Ali. How do you remember, Mr. Figueroa, Mr. Muhammad Ali, from the point of view that he was for the weak, he was for the minorities, and maybe you saw those fightings or those civil rights movements when he was in the 60s against when was Malcolm X or Martin Luther King Jr.
Well, Muhammad Ali, a real American hero. Who can forget the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire, or the Thriller in Manila in the Philippines? He was the one who took boxing to the next level. When he defeated Sonny Liston in 1961 under Cassius Clay, his anger about the civil rights movement of being the world heavyweight champion, but not able to vote in the South, so angered him that he began to follow Malcolm X and the teachings of Malcolm X and became Muslim and changed his name. It was a shock to all of America. I can still recall it as a very young boy as a shock, and most Americans at times shunned him. But he was able to foresee the future. When he opposed the Vietnam War, was followed by other leaders, including Dr. Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez. They all began to oppose the war. He led that way. And he paid a price of going to prison for 5 years. He paid the price by losing his heavyweight champion for that. But he came back and he said he stood for what he believed in. When he regained the championship and the war was over, everyone said, wow, he was right. He was a hero. But he didn't stop there. His charitable movements are well known throughout the world. After he retook the championship 3 times, he's the only champion to hold the world heavyweight champion 3 times. It was remarkable. I remember seeing the last time he was defeated by Leon Spinks, who took the title and who was then later defeated by Larry Holmes. It was quite, but who can forget, Ken Norton, the Rumble in the Jungle, or Joe Frazier, the famous fights. It was before Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray.
I really would like to have seen those kind of fights, so that living in those times, but I did not have the chance to live. But I can see through the videos and through the books and through the history or the things that happen today about those great leaders, and also that he was very close to Nelson Mandela because of his ideology. And now he switched his ideology to become a Muslim, but a Muslim that believes in peace and justice and equality. And it's important to remember that.
It is. The great history that he leaves behind is something to be honored and treasured. I remember, going back to memories, I remember a story about where he was, I believe, in a restaurant, and there was a young man who was being discriminated against, and he, I believe, helped him overcome this whatever it was that he was fighting against, or maybe I'm remembering the different story. Steve, do you recall where he was? Oh no, he was at a restaurant. There was a gentleman that was getting ready to commit suicide in a building. Muhammad Ali found out about it, ran up to the building, and pretty much talked that young man down, and then he proceeded to pay for the young man's mental health issues. So that's a story that stayed with me. The fights, unfortunately, I don't remember those as well as Steve does. And as
No,
you
Steve
do.
loves boxing. I can tell you.
You know,
Because we grow up with that kind of sports and we love it. Even till today, we got many boxers.
But
And
today
even though-
does not compare to the Muhammad
No, but
Ali, Joe
besides-
Frazier fight.
I know, I agree with
It
you.
was-
I'm 100% agree with you,
The-
Mr. Figueroa, that this is not
Jerry-
the same.
There was
But-
Jerry Clooney fights.
Exactly,
The
but-
Great White Hope. That's what, people don't understand that the movie Rocky and what was the other guy he fought with? Rocky and I can't even remember the
I
name.
don't
It's so
remember
big now.
those names
It was
either.
based on the Jerry Clooney Muhammad Ali fight as the last Great White Hope and him winning.
But
Apollo.
Apollo, yes.
Apollo.
But you know what I seen
Apollo
from
Creed.
boxing that this is what happened in life. One of them is the winner, and the other is the loser, and that happened every single day to every one of us. That we and
But
now in election
Muhammad,
time.
even when he lost, he won.
But he
Even
lost
when he lost,
only because the way he acts, because
Yeah, it was-
his ideology, the way that he had to
Exactly.
speak to the people. He spoke to the car of the people and to the weak, and then everybody was following him. But as I was telling you about that, this is part of our lives to become a boxer. But
But more importantly, Muhammad Ali, a Muslim, never was so proud of his being an American. And here we have this day and age where people are questioning what a Muslim is. And if Muhammad Ali is what a Muslim is, he was a very good front page, face for it.
And even though there is people that they refuse to call him Muhammad Ali, and I seen some media outlets that just put, instead of put Muhammad, just put Ali.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
caught my
True.
attention. But
True.
we're going to switch gears because today is a very important day for California, for the United States. By one side, Secretary Clinton could clinch the Democratic nomination today, even though people sense from yesterday. But I would like to start asking you about what will happen to Bernie Sanders. To Bernie Sanders, that he has many supporters. There were millions of people supporting him, and he refused to give up. He said, I'm not going to drop out, and I'm going to be until the last minute. It's something that we should admire.
Absolutely. And if you look at the entire, this entire last year, since the very first day that he announced he was running for Democratic nominee, people have been telling him to give up. People have been saying, give up, walk away, when are you leaving, when are you stopping, it's done, would you consider, and then of course it's never presidential, it's would you consider being the vice president, would you consider, pretty much everything else that's there. But they've never said, the media that is, let us help you, let us share with you, let's help you achieve what you're looking for. He's always been the underdog, and unfortunately that can, take its toll on the followers as well. But Bernie Sanders is quite an inspiring man for the age that he is, and he's only, I think, 6 years older than Hillary. He's not that much older than, but his appearance gives him that older look. He refuses to quit. And that's one thing that I love about Bernie Sanders is regardless of the outcome, regardless of where he is, regardless of what they're saying, regardless of whatever tactics are being thrown his way, he will keep going. He will contest this. He will take it to the convention.
And we're going to wait for that, Mr. Figueroa, about that contested convention in the Democratic in Philadelphia, and maybe we can be there because now this TV station has a new name, and new benefits, but we're not talk about that.
Sure.
Because that's a very good news for this television station that finally we can go national, and then more people can watch this show and other shows that we're going to have it. But that's going to be after this break. Please stay with us. According to the Associated Press and other media outlets, Secretary Clinton clinched the presidential Democratic nomination. However, Mr. Sanders doesn't want to give up.
Hillary Clinton has secured the number of delegates needed to win the Democratic Party nomination for president. The claim, made by the Associated Press, comes ahead of today's final Super Tuesday of the campaign, when she's expected to collect the rest of the pledged delegates and so-called superdelegates needed to take her past the crucial threshold.
Long Beach! I got to tell you, according to the news, we are on the brink of a historic, unprecedented moment. But we still have work to do, don't we? We have 6 elections tomorrow, and we're going to fight hard for every single vote, especially right here in California.
But her rival, Bernie Sanders, has vowed to keep on fighting, saying it's wrong to count the votes of superdelegates before they actually cast ballots at the Democratic National Convention in July.
If we can win here in California, win in South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, New Mexico, do well in New Jersey, we're going to go into that convention with enormous momentum.
However, Sanders' decision to keep fighting has caused growing divisions among Democrats, some of whom feel he should bow out now to allow Clinton to unify the party ahead of taking on Republican Donald Trump in the race for the White House.
Talking about Bernie Sanders, you're the supporter for Bernie Sanders.
Absolutely.
When you hear that yesterday in the media outlets, in the Associated Press, that they declare, I mean, not they declare, but they report that that Secretary Clinton has already the Democratic nomination. What's your feeling?
I'm outraged. Because how can you know? How can that be if California nor the other states have voted? So how can they know? How can we be certain that that is an accurate statement? So you have to ask, how did these delegates come forward and say, oh, we're going to vote for you? Were they approached? Are they counting superdelegates? Which superdelegates can't vote until September. So how do we know?
Let's, Mr. Figueroa, answer that question. Please. Help us to
In the
understand
Democratic form, the rules
Yes.
that was set forth in the last election, there are superdelegates, pledged delegates, and elected delegates. And we recently voted for elected delegates in our own 61st district. And part of that is those individuals that are unpledged. So when the elections, they haven't said, we're not taking a vote either way, even though they've had the vote in their state. At any time they can say, you know what, I'm making a pledge. So there were a number, as many as 50 unpledged delegates across the country that at the very last moment have pledged, including Nancy Pelosi and others who have pledged at the last moment. They saw Hillary winning overwhelmingly, and so they said, you know what, we better jump on board before it's too late.
Then Mr. Figueroa,
we angered Mrs. Clinton.
The rules has been the rules for a long time.
Well, the rules are set every 4 years in presidential election. So the rules they set today, okay, will govern many elections, and all the local parties will go by and review their rules until the next elections. And every 4 years they set the rules. Now, when they meet in Philadelphia again, they're going to set new rules for which to vote on for Hillary that will help govern the next 4 years.
Don't you think that takes out credibility to the system? Like, for example, what makes sense to people to go out and vote today when they yesterday night say, oh, we already who's the winner? How can I go to vote?
I'll tell you. I agree with Bernie and even Trump on this. It should be one man, one vote.
Exactly.
It should be. I completely agree with that. But unfortunately, our electoral system was established in our Constitution, and it's embedded in our various parties. Now, the Johnson, the former New Mexico governor, the Libertarian candidate, excuse me, it is one person, one vote in the Libertarian Party. So the party can make that decision, one person. And I'm kind of glad that Bernie is actively to the very end campaigning and making it hard. He's putting their foot to the fire. He needs to. They need it. We need reform. We all agree with that. The reform is needed. And if he gets that in Philadelphia, one man, one vote, I think everybody will be better off and happy for it.
Then, Blanca, do you see like in the next month in July in Philadelphia? By the way, are you planning to be there in Philadelphia?
I will try.
You will try?
I will try.
But then there will be a contested convention?
Yes.
You're not satisfied, even though Mr. Sanders has said that tomorrow, June 8, after the California primaries, he's not going to give up. And he's not sending the message to his people, even though he lost California. Because so far, right now, we do not know Right
No,
now, so
we
far,
won't
we
know.
know that he lost already in New Jersey, according to the AP, and Democrats, that Mrs. Secretary Clinton, she has already 2,433, more than 383. And Mr. Sanders, Senator Sanders, he has 1,606 delegates so far. But why keep going? Why keep going when they already, Mr. Figueroa told us about the rules, the super delegates. Secretary Clinton has more than 3 million votes. And then how come Mr. Sanders didn't want to give up?
The superdelegates can change their mind at any time, right?
Do you think that they changed their mind when they already make the pledge?
Anything can happen.
Well, what could make them to change their minds?
It could be Bernie Sanders contesting it. It could be Bernie Sanders having an overwhelming win in California. We won't know until 8 o'clock, right? So anything can happen. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of organizations, a lot of groups, a lot of young people that have been phone banking, canvassing, really getting the word out to have Mr. Bernie Sanders make a difference. We need change. Hillary Clinton is not change. Hillary Clinton is the status quo. She's going to continue everything just the way it's been. For change to happen, you need someone new, someone that has true character, unapologetic, and always doing the right decisions, and that's Bernie Sanders. So for him to say, I will not quit, we will not quit. If he wants to go, we will continue to go, and that's how we feel.
The last time you told me, I asked you this, if Mr. Sanders didn't get the Democratic nomination, would you vote for Hillary Clinton? And you told me no. Don't you think that will strengthen more Mr. Trump's supporters?
Then so be it. You've made your choice. I'm making my choice. You make your choice.
Okay, now I'm going to show you some of the Mr. Sanders people that they're supporting, and that happened in June the 7th. Why did you decide to vote today?
Well, my name is Jose Pulido, and I live in the area of San Bernardino. And I decided to vote my first time because, I felt that it was necessary. Well, it's my first time, so, I thought it was very important for people to vote, especially during the candidates are involved. There's a lot of problem with racial candidates running, and I don't think that's right. So, I decided to step in and try to make a difference.
When you see those physical violence and those rallies against Mr. Trump, what's your take on that?
I think they're bad, but I think that people need to understand how to protest in an appropriate way. Mr. Martin Luther King Jr., a great example of a protester. No violence. He marched, trying to make a difference. By people, showing a lot of violence, it just gives us more of a bad name. It kind of gives them an edge. Like, oh, look what people are doing. I'm right. So, I think people should check their way they protest. Make it more peaceful.
Listen to Mr. Trump, those comments about the Mexican immigrants. What's your feeling?
I think he did step out of line. I thought America was a land for the free. For everyone. It doesn't matter where you're from. America calls herself the melting pot of the world. But by a man, Mr. Trump, coming out and saying all these racial slurs to Mexican people, it offended a lot of people. And I understand. You would think by now that America would change and stop racial slurs.
We believe it's very important to support candidates who are going to make a difference for our community, especially the immigrant community who has been underrepresented, especially in this region, and also the country as a whole.
Yeah, also me, I decided to come in today to vote, to say yes, we are here, with, especially for the immigrant community. I support Bernie Sanders today because I believe and he's fighting, he's going to the minors people, and that's why I come in over here today to vote.
What you support in Bernie Sanders?
Yes.
And when you hear about last night that the presumptive Democratic nominee is Hillary Clinton, does that didn't take you out to come out to vote today?
Yes, I think it's important to keep supporting him. Hillary Clinton is not the nominee yet, even if they're saying that she will be. I think it's a tactic that's used to discourage voters, but we are still supporting him.
What is the main issue for Bernie Sanders, or what is the most concern about for you that made you to support Bernie Sanders?
I think primarily immigration, because he's the one who has the best policies, and especially because we have right now refugee families are being deported in large numbers, and I don't think Hillary Clinton would stop that. So that's the biggest, most important thing, and also equal rights for minorities, for Black Americans, and all the different issues, including poverty, that affect our communities.
It's a tactic, what she said, about by Democratic to a day before the biggest election, because June the 7th, Mr. Figueroa, is the biggest night or the biggest day. A day before, the Associated Press said that Secretary Clinton is the nominee, Democratic nominee, and they say the same. It's a tactic. But why did they do this?
Why? They presume she's going to win, and they might as well.
Don't you think that they were afraid that Mr. Sanders has a lot of power? He creates the ideological revolution. We can see in the rallies. Everywhere he stopped by, youth people and old people and everybody supporting him. Don't you think that they were afraid because California is so important?
Well, it's not just California alone has over a quarter of the delegates necessary to win. So if we add the other states, which don't have very many delegates outside of New Jersey, you know, that's clear near 650 delegates that were up today, where you only need 23. That's more than a quarter, almost, you know, like almost a third of the delegates needed to win. Was it a tactic? It sure seems like it. Even I'm saying that. Were people in cahoots? Why did these pledged delegates wait till the last minute? Even I'm questioning that. But you know what? It's also good diplomatic skills.
Diplomatic skills, do you take like that?
No, I think it was a ploy to discourage voting. I think that because we are such a big state and we make such a big difference in the overall delegate count, that it was a tactic for people that were maybe uncertain, or maybe for people that were you know, for various reasons, unsure of should I vote, when I should, you know, running out and actually voting. I think that pretty much put them at ease and said, well, I don't need to vote now. And hopefully it didn't to too many people, but I think that was a ploy to decrease the numbers of people showing up at the polling sites.
When you were in the morning in the polling places, did you see the excitement from people to vote? Did you see anything that really matters to them to see, I really want to vote because it's important?
The excitement was within me. I got up, I took my children to school, and I went straight to voting. So when I walked in, it was myself and one other person. And they were already finishing up and walking out. So the excitement was with me. And going through the process and, you know, confirming that I was on the list, getting my ballot, going and making my selection, for me it was exciting. I wanted to jump up and down and share it with the world, but there was nobody really there. But so of course, what a good Bernie supporter does, I took a picture, put it on Facebook, and I sent it out.
That's the best.
That's
the best that we
can
do.
I voted yesterday.
Okay.
You can vote early
Yes.
in any election up to a week at the voter registrar's office. It was packed. I was surprised. In Riverside County voter registrar's office, I had to wait in line. I had to get a number to vote. There were so many people voting yesterday.
Believe me, it's a very good feeling. And also right now, seeing a lot of youth people.
Sure.
That they went out to those polling places. And that's the beginning of this political process that invite to the youth to go and vote, even though sometimes they do not know what's going about it, but
the
it's important.
Important thing is the follow through, that they not get discouraged, that they continue to vote and recognize that it's not just voting, it's going to council meetings and speaking out for 3 minutes, to water board meetings, to school board meetings to find out why is this happening. So democracy requires.
That's democracy, and this happened, Mr. Figueroa, because an ideological revolution that was implemented by Mr. Bernie Sanders. We're going to take a break, but I'll be right back. When we come back, we're going to talk about Mr. Trump, Mr. Donald Trump, that he keeps talking and talking about building his wall. We do not know what kind of wall now, but he's going to build a wall. Now we're going to show you the Republican side in this historic day for the Democrats, but not for the Republicans that has no other choice than Mr. Trump.
Clinton is corrupt. Her husband was a drug smuggler. He was hooked on drugs. It's like Groundhog's Days. They were already in the White House, all right? It's like, she's a moneymonger. She's a phony. She's the one who's scamming people. She will promise this and that to blacks, Mexicans.
Well, the one that is blaming Mexican is Mr. Trump. Do you remember that he's putting the wall, he's building a wall, and then his people. Some people mention that he's a racist because he's telling the judge, Mr. Curiel, is not treating fair him because of Mexican heritage.
What a coincidence in the timing. Okay, I think he's being snide, and this judge, he's doing this because he got offended by Trump. Okay, we all know that Trump on that level of debating and whatever. And this campaign has been grueling, and I give them all thumbs up for hanging in there as long as they do. So the pressure's on him. He spouts off, but it's what a person does. It's what they do. He's a self-made billionaire.
The presidential candidates, Mr. Sanders, and Mr. Trump, and Mrs. Clinton, who would you trust more?
Who would I trust more? On economy and jobs, I would trust Trump more.
Mr. Trump?
Yeah, he's a businessman. He knows what he's talking about. The Republicans and Democrats, they're fighting over political power and in bed with certain groups, just like Trump has brought out, and they're not speaking for the people. We still have record unemployment, and go ahead. What were you going to say?
People say that he's racist because his comments. What's your take on that?
No, I really don't believe. We're all racist in a way. Well, we're not racist because we never controlled a group of people, but as far as what they said, I really don't believe he just speaks his mind. I don't think he's really racist against women, because if you look the way that he's raised his daughters and his family, they're very intelligent. They're in the process, and I've seen him he has other minorities on board. It's just that he's a businessman. He sees what's going on in this country. He speaks his mind. He goes overboard a little bit sometimes, but this is the type of politician that we need in there.
Do you think that, Mr. Figueroa, that he's the politician that we need, Mr. Trump?
No, Mr. Trump is a racist. He keeps saying how the Mexicans will love him. I want him to know that I despise you, Mr. Trump punk. Whatever we want to say, that we don't love you, okay? And if anyone's going to be going back to their country, you're going to be going back to Germany if they'll have you.
Mr. Figueroa, let me tell you this. There's people that they're still supporting him, but after his comments about this judge, the Gonzalo Curiel from San Diego, that he's taking his case about the Trump University, many people, many Republicans fights against him about those comments. But however, you see those people supporting him. Why is this happening? That the blacks and white people supporting him, and then saying he really is the man that this country needed.
Well, it's not many. I understand that no matter what, 13% of Latinos are Republican, and they're going to vote Republican no matter what. And as little as 7% of African Americans. And my numbers come from attending a legislative conference with the California Hispanic Chamber in Sacramento. But as far as Trump, he's a perfect example of karma, his words coming back to haunt him. As you saw, Paul Ryan today described Trump as the very definition of a racist. Mitch McConnell today, the Senate, is questioning whether he can even support or vote for Trump now based on, he said, Trump is not raising money. His sponsors are withdrawing their funding and promises. It's a perfect, and those who support Trump, it's going to come back to haunt them. And I'm sure, they still blame Obama for World War II. He wasn't even born. You're going to have that segment of society that is going to blame Obama and Hillary for anything. We got to remember, there were some Jews that supported Hitler. It's crazy, but it's true.
I have to tell you also that this weekend in the editorial page from the San Diego Tribune, they were asking to the people or inviting to the people to vote for Reagan instead of any of the Republican that they're going to be in the ballot. And also the son from Ronald Reagan, Michael Reagan, sent a tweet telling the people that do not vote for Mr. Trump, and he mentioned also that none of his family will vote for Mr. Trump. We have seen that there's Republicans, they don't like it, Mr. Trump, that division in the Republican Party. But Mrs. Arellano, according to Bernie Sanders, according to polls, he can beat easier Mr. Trump than Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely. We have the manpower behind it. We have the votes. None of us want to see Donald Trump as president. But realistically, we see Trump and Hillary as the same. Bernie supporters, the majority of us. So, but yes, I think, you know, and you see the followers in the crowds. When Hillary gets together, she has on average of 375 people show up, on average. When Bernie Sanders puts a rally together, he has thousands. So how is it that we lose in the polls? So, I mean...
Yes, Mr. Figueroa.
I'd like to answer. Hillary's people are showing up more counts in the voting booth. She has 3 million more votes than Bernie. That's the bottom line. And by the end of the night, she may have 4 million more votes. And that's where it counts. And where Bernie has large crowds of unregistered voters showing up to his campaign, we hope to reach across to Iowa and say, look, we can't afford to be opposing each other. We can't afford it. The cost is too great if Trump gets elected. We cannot oppose.
Mr. Figueroa, don't you see the winning for Hillary Clinton will be the same as Obama, another 4 years for Obama?
You know,
will be any difference? Because even though the President Obama, he mentioned that he will endorse Mrs. Clinton in the next few days, are we going to have the same?
We may.
Or you expect a difference?
You know, I expect differences in certain areas.
Because of the Bernie Sanders
well,
ideology.
you know what? Bernie has a valid point in many areas. Nobody's discounting it. College used to be free. Why isn't it free now? It started charging under Dugmasian. The Republicans started charging for college. When I was going to graduate from high school is when they barely started charging. It was like $1 a unit. You know, yeah, I think people right now on both sides would rather. Trump is going to be negative change. We're going to regress. Sanders has great ideas. I love his ideas, except it's going to cost money to pay for those ideas.
You know where we can get that money? Because I agree. But again, I'm still with the Trump and Hillary is the same thing. That if Hillary wins the next 4 years, will be just like they have been now with Obama. It's a lot of the same thing. There will be no change. However, where would the free college come from? Where would all of these social services come from? You know, easily, you know, I think Bernie Sanders had said, if we can put trillions of dollars into a war, we can easily put that same amount, if not less, into education. That's one thing, cutting back on war, not being in a perpetual war. However, even easier than that, let's say that for whatever reason we needed to be in war, there's other ways to make up the difference. And that's all of these tax breaks that we have been giving all of these, you know, huge companies and Wall Street. They're not paying taxes. They haven't been paying taxes for the last 20 years. Every year it's been less and less taxes that they pay. And more that's needed by their workers or the people that they've let go for various reasons.
But how can we get that change?
How can we have them pay more taxes?
Let me read this a little bit of this article that was written by Thomas Sowell from the let me see, well, he's a columnist for the National Humanities. He's the medal winner. He's an American economist, social theorist, political philosopher, and author. And he wrote about socialism, about Karl Marx. And he said, the great promise of socialism is something for nothing. It is one of the signs of today's dumbed down education that so many college students seem to think that the cost of their education should and will be paid by raising taxes on the rich. None of this rocket science, but you do have to stop and think, and that is what too many of our schools and colleges are failing to teach their students to do.
And that's fine. That's an ideology. However, when you say, how can we offer this for free, it's not really for free. Consider all of the lost taxes that all of these corporations have been, you know, avoiding to pay because they've asked for it. This whole trickle-down economics doesn't work, and that's been in place now for close to 20 years, more heavily so in the last 10 years. So more and more money is being allowed for these corporations to keep, and less of that trickles down to everybody else. There's still less jobs, there's still less everything. However, their income and their profit margin keeps skyrocketing. Why?
I would totally agree
now,
that most of this debate that's going on in this politics.
If I may just finish my thought, and it'll be brief. Okay, when you have to pay your taxes at the end of the year, you pay them, right? And if you don't pay them, the IRS starts to collect on your salary or what have you. You pay them, okay? So why is it that, and you pay, anywhere from 15 to 35% depending on your income.
Yes.
So why is it that these large corporations don't? Why is it that they're paying 5% or getting millions of dollars in refunds? They're not.
I'm a former tax preparer because the rich have manipulated Congress. I completely agree for certain tax benefits for the rich. And so when they write legal tax write-offs, they get written off. They buy businesses for the purposes of losing money. There's no question. If you look at the whole political debate, even with Trump going on, even Trump saying what is going on is unfair taxes going on in the middle class. That's what's driving this entire election. But you know what would better help the youth? Okay? What would better help is jobs. And how do we do that? By investing in our infrastructure, by building new bridges. So when they graduate from college, they have a good paying job. As a small business advocate, having the ability to earn that living and value that education. I would love college to be free, but in a real world, it's not going to work that way because as an education advocate, I know profoundly that if people don't earn what they have, they don't value it.
And I agree with you on that. And that is part of Bernie Sanders' stance. He wants to do a lot of infrastructure repair to open up a lot of different jobs immediately. However, that still doesn't take away from the frivolous tax evasion and the frivolous tax manipulation done by the large corporations. And until the government can recapture those taxes, I think that's going to continue the same thing.
I know a little about economics. You see, people complain about Wall Street, but many of the pensions and the state union pensions invest in Wall Street in order to keep up the value so they can pay their pensions to their employees.
And in the last 10 years, those pensions have lost money because Wall Street hasn't been regulated and they've been losing money.
I completely agree.
However,
what I'm saying
NAFTA,
is the issue
PPP.
Let me stop you a little bit because we have to see another video. I wish to have more time, but I'm going to stop you right now. We have to talk about this Trump comments that he made about the judge from Indiana that he has Mexican blood, Gonzalo Curiel. And recently I had the opportunity to ask a trial lawyer regarding about this conflict of interest.
The law goes by politics. And right now we have one presidential candidate that he mentioned that he's going to build a wall between Mexico and the United States. And also one of his cases that Trump University is taken by he mentioned a Mexican, but he's not a Mexican, Mr. Curiel. He's a lawyer from San Diego. And now some people think that that's racism. What's your take on that since you're a lawyer and you have your students? Ethnicity has to take part in any decision in the courts?
Yes, I think ethnicity is important. I'm a trial lawyer, and so I spend my time concentrating on my cases. I'm not an advisor to Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or the judge, for that matter, in San Diego that's handling the case. What I think we should do is handle legal matters in the courtroom and not in the media. And I think that if we follow the process that's been established and evolved over the last 200 years, most of the time we get the right outcome.
I have to tell you also that this morning, Mr. Paul Ryan, the House Speaker, mentioned something about those comments about the judge with Mexican descent. Let's hear what Mr. Paul Ryan said.
About these requirements, I regret those comments that he made. I don't think claiming a person can't do their job because of their race is sort of like the textbook definition of a racist comment. I think that should be absolutely disavowed. It's absolutely unacceptable. But do I believe that Hillary Clinton is the answer? No, I do not. Do I believe that Hillary Clinton is going to be the answer to solving these problems? I do not. I believe that we have more common ground on the policy issues of the day, and we have more likelihood of getting our policies enacted with him than we do with her. But I do absolutely disavow those comments. I think they're wrong. I don't think they're right-headed. And the thinking behind it is something I don't even personally relate to. But at the end of the day, this is about ideas. This is about moving our agenda forward, and that's why we're moving the way we're moving.
About ideas, Mr. Figueroa, but you hear very well what he said. He said that he's against these comments by Mr. Trump. However, he did not say that he's not going to vote for Mr. Trump.
Talk about a bigot, okay? He's saying that Trump is a racist, but he's going to support. That's the definition of a bigot, what we just heard from Paul Ryan, okay? And if no one's called you it before, well, you know, you're the definition of a bigot if Mr. Trump's the definition of a racist.
Do you see like that also? Do you feel like that same?
Absolutely.
That it's one of the things that I do not understand. Like he said, okay, that's wrong about those comments. However, I'm going to vote for you in November.
This is the epitome of politician, unfortunately. These are political or lifelong politicians, and that's, you know, whatever pushes their agenda forward, that's what they will do. So if that means that he has to say these things but still say, I will vote for Trump or I still believe in Trump, it's because there's a hidden agenda that he's looking to push.
And also Mitch McConnell, the leader from the Senate, he said that he has to separate from these comments, and instead of that, focus on real issues. And also another candidate for the Republican nomination, he mentioned that Republicans, that Trump is not a racist, but he's playing the race card.
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't, like I said earlier, Senator Mitch McConnell called him a racist. Late this afternoon, I forgot, the U.S. Senator from Illinois has said he can no longer support Trump. He's not raising the money he should be raising. All of the sponsors and even the Koch brothers are not giving to Trump. So, you know, Trump now has to prove that he's a billionaire and fund his presidential campaign. But guess what? He can't, because Mark Cuban is right. Trump is a liar. He doesn't have the billions. He may not even have the hundreds of millions. He's a paper tiger is what he is.
We're going to find out later, Mr. Figueroa, he has a million that he is supposed to have.
Millions, not billions.
Billions. We're going to take another break, but I'll be right back. Since today is a historic day for the Democrats and for the Republicans, it really doesn't matter because they know already who's the Republican nominee. But for the Democrats, Mrs. Arellano, what do you expect from tonight's speech from Mr. Sanders? First of all, well, maybe we do not know if he's going to win California, but what would you like to hear from him tonight?
We hope we win California. However, even if we don't, I know that he's going to come out and acknowledge whatever the delegate count is and reaffirm that he will contest and go to convention as a contested nominee.
Would you, I know that you're a fan of Mr. Sanders, but are you going to watch that speech from Mr. Clinton tonight because it's a historic day?
No.
Because even though she already won the Democratic nominee, are you going to watch that speech? You don't care about what
No, because they're all lies. Everything that she's promising is not something she's looking to fulfill.
I'll tell you what the big push is among my Democratic friends who are Hillary supporters for Bernie Sanders vice president. And the reason is we need somebody like Bernie Sanders to keep the heat on somebody like Hillary and Congress to say, I'm going to make you do what you said you're going to do.
But
so we would love to see Bernie Sanders. There's talk of Elizabeth Warren, who I've met, Julian Castro. But, you know, right now, we got to think about uniting the party. I would love to see a Bernie Sanders vice president.
What about the other party, the Gary Johnson? Party? The Libertarian Party that they wanted to be part of the debates. Would you support that?
I would. I absolutely
welcome
that.
But if you do that, that give you a place to Mr. Trump to become the next president of the United States.
Disagree.
Because
I see
Mr.
Gary Johnson
didn't have your vote.
As another Ralph Nader, why Al Gore lost the presidency because it was just 3% he took away. And remember, it was only by a few hundred votes and one vote in each county in Florida that they claimed Gore lost, but he really won. But had Ralph Nader not won, history would be different today.
Well, I agree.
According to this poll from the Wall Street Journal and NBC, they found that 54% of the voters view Clinton negatively and 58% of voters view Trump negatively. That means that Bernie Sanders. But how come people didn't vote for him since the beginning of his campaign?
You know, they did come out to vote. I think that there was a lot of voter suppression. Most of the states had a reduction of polling sites. Most of the states had long lines and hours of waiting. I think it was all done on purpose to minimize the counting of those votes.
As a party member, I think that Clinton had better organizations in all the states. She had more experience, so therefore she had 20, 30 years of people organizing for her in the various states. Bernie wasn't independent at this time.
Mr. Figueroa, one question. The fact that she will be the first woman nominated by the biggest political party in the United States is historic.
I know my mom is celebrating for women's. My mom tells me that when she remembered the first day she voted, when my grandmother used to tell us the story why women couldn't vote. And that's less than 100 years ago. Women couldn't even vote. Women were still considered property in the U.S.
Even though as the first woman, would you feel that way?
No, I actually feel embarrassed and ashamed that it's her. I think there's plenty of other females that are more qualified and more deserving of it.
Like who?
I think like Jill Stein.
They didn't run. Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren. Nancy Pelosi and others, but right now it's already late. But then you don't feel the proud to, as a woman, to have a first elected Democratic woman, even though
Here's the reason why I don't feel this way, because let's say that she does become president. 2 years from now, where we are in war with Libya, I will not be proud. When everything stays the same, I will not be proud. When we have another crash, I will not be proud. So no, I don't see any positive change.
I'm a Joe Biden supporter. I wish he would have ran.
We have to start, Mr. Figueroa, because we don't have more time, but please, in the last 30 seconds, what would you expect tonight, June the 7th, from the Democratic Party, from Mrs. Clinton or Mr. Bernie Sanders?
I think tonight's historic as a woman for the first time, and we have to applaud it whether we agree to it or not. The United States has taken a new step in democracy, that we're recognizing that a woman could do a job as good as a man, and we ought to be proud of that.
And Mrs. Arellano, also, your conclusion for today's show.
My conclusion is that I still have faith that we have enough votes to allow Bernie Sanders to win California and continue to contest it. I'm not going to be celebrating Hillary Clinton. Again, I don't think that's a step in the right direction. And I know that the world is watching, and they themselves are disappointed because this is being watched by the entire world, and everybody has their opinion. She's not the right candidate.
I like that. Everybody has their own opinion. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, Mrs. Norma Arellano and Mr. Steven Blanca Arellano and Mr. Steven Figueroa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you're going to celebrate tonight no matter what.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. You're very optimistic. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, and on behalf of everybody that makes possible Foro Politico, see you soon and good night.